Hello and welcome to Rome Business Radio. My name is Roger Manus Jr. We are coming to you from our Rome Business RadioX studios here at the Rome News Tribune in downtown Rome, Georgia, where we celebrate business. We connect people so they can do business, and we share stories about business in the Rome and Northwest Georgia community. That's the whole point of Business Radio. As I mentioned, I'm your host, Roger Manus Jr., and I specify that because we are joined by two gentlemen today, one of whom happens to be my father, Roger Manus Sr. How are you doing, Dad?
Good so far.
Good so far. We're also joined by Jimmy Byars, who is the CEO over at Hardy Realty. How you doing, Jimmy?
I'm doing great.
Well, thanks both of you for being here. So this is an unusual situation for me because we're on the air in a podcast celebrating business, and my dad is one of the guests. So we may wander aimlessly during our conversation a little bit, but primarily we are here to talk about a recent acquisition that affects the business community for Rome and Northwest Georgia, and that is because my father, Roger Manus Sr., through Hardy Realty, has purchased the old Georgia Power Building. So, Jimmy, from your perspective, just how did this deal come together?
Well, we've had the Georgia Power Building on the market for about a year and a half, and Roger came through our agent, Debbie Hayes, who's got a relationship with Roger. And she walked her through the building, and then Roger came back and he talked to people and came back again, and he's got quite a vision for it. So here we are. He purchased it.
Well, and for those who don't know, it's a
43,000 square foot building. It's got a small little auditorium in there to boot. It's got about 100 parking places in the basement. Most people don't realize it's a full parking garage completely underneath the building. So it's covered parking, so that's sort of cool. Got an elevator going up to each building, so that's even more fun. You can go park underneath and go up.
It's got a drive-through window.
Got a drive-through window, so they can pay Roger as they come by to pay the lease rate. So, yeah.
Well, we'll circle more back about that. Dad, I want to tell a little bit about your background. You were born in Subligna, Georgia during the Depression, the youngest of five. Father was a sawmiller, mother was a homemaker, but your whole life has just basically been business, entrepreneurial business, up and down, primarily transportation-related, trucking industry. You and your wife, Diane, built Scott Logistics in this town, and you should have retired by now, Dad. But nope, you're buying the Georgia Power Building. What the heck's going on, Dad?
Well, I just thought it was a good investment. I thought it was worth the money, and I was bored that day and didn't have nothing else to do, so it sounded like a good idea at the time.
At the time. Yeah. So I guess I would call you now a retired logistics executive who's a financial investor. You're a gentleman farmer. What specifically about the Georgia Power Building caught your eye? The location, I mean, it's right at the crossroads of business in Rome, Turner McCall and Broad Street. What caught your eye?
Well, it's a very well-built building. It's been there a while, and, Jimmy has got the reputation of being able to get business tenants in there, and I just thought it was a good investment.
Your tours through the building, what has impressed you most?
I don't know not any one thing. It's just a big old building.
Yeah.
We need some good tenants in it.
Yeah. That's another point of the podcast is we want to lease space. There's space for lease, Jimmy. So you are now on as the property manager, correct, in addition to just selling it and closing the sale.
Right.
So what process now have you got to go through to get that building ready and tenants in there and all that?
So, the building's in good shape. Georgia Power had painted it throughout. It's got new carpet in some of the sections. Of course, some of the other sections may need to get that replaced. It's sort of built like a Sherman tank. It's got poured concrete floors. It got poured concrete ceilings. So it's well built. It's got a lot of flexibility. We can accommodate everything from a one-man office to 20,000 square foot corporate center. So that's the fun part about it is it's just got sort of a blank slate as far as office space is concerned.
So to get some space leased, they need to contact you. So let's get some contact information because I'm
trying not to be self-serving. This is about Roger.
Well, I'm being self-serving because I'm familial attached here. We need to get the space leased.
Right. So you can call Hardy Realty 706-291-4321, and we've got a group of probably 10 or 11 folks that sort of focus on commercial and leasing in commercial. So any one of those can help you. You can call me, and I'll be glad to help you. Jimmy Kelly, Carol Hatch, or any of our other commercial agents.
And Dad, I know one of the things we wanted to do is, it's now your building. We want to name the building because if not forever, it will just be the old Georgia Power building. But the mission of the building is changing. So it is the goal of you and Jimmy to rent this as office space for people to conduct business. It's not retail or residential, correct?
That's correct.
So with that in mind, Dad, would you like to announce what you have decided to name the building?
Well, we're thinking the Manus Business Center is what we're pretty much settled on.
Manus Business Center. Yeah. How does that sound to you, Jimmy?
Well, it sounds great because the name helps us market the property, because that's exactly what we're going to put in there. So business-related office space. I mean, we could have a small retail, maybe a coffee shop or something that flows with the office part of the business, or a workout center that flows with the office part of the business. So anything that has to do to help business succeed.
So there's some flexibility here because it's a 43,000 square feet and it's new and lots of stuff on the table, lots of stuff. So somebody can come in if they just want 200 square feet or 20,000. Call Jimmy.
Right. Exactly. And it's got that auditorium in there, which is a little bit unique. So, Roger's going to figure out what we do in there, but that may be some ways to lease that out too.
That is, and had you decided we really can't talk square footage price yet because you want to set up a model that's based on, you'll get a better deal the more you lease?
Well, it depends on a whole lot on how much space somebody needs.
Sure.
Obviously we're going to have to charge more for somebody that wants 200 square feet than if they want 20,000 square feet. But we're ready to put some people in there.
So the other thing to point out is that utilities will be included in the lease rate because it's a big building, and Georgia Power used it as one giant office. So there's no way to separate utilities. So your utilities will be included in your lease.
Okay, so I'm proud as a peacock that the family name is attached to Manus Business Center. I am your only son, but I have 4 sisters, but we got lots of cousins roaming through here. And as I mentioned, Dad is the son of a sawmiller, and you had brothers doing business in this town. What has the city of Rome meant to you in your lifetime from a business perspective? Just as you have lived your life and built your business.
Well, Rome's a small town in a lot of ways. A lot of ways it's not. Made a lot of good contacts here. It's been very important to, particularly at Scott Logistics. Diane, my wife, and I started it from nothing and just recently sold it, and it turned out to be good for us, and so it's just been a good environment. Yeah.
Literally, you started it from nothing, because I remember in the early 90s, you had nothing.
Absolutely. I had 5 kids.
Yeah. Well, it's good.
So you needed to do something.
Jimmy, I asked you one time a year or two ago, growing up, I went to Armurchie for a year. I went to West End Elementary, and then we moved to Atlanta, and then back here, and I went to Darlington for 2 or 3 years, and then we moved to Atlanta. But bottom line is we moved a lot. Yeah. And I said, Dad, why did we move all those times? And he looked at me and he said, you wanted to eat, didn't you? Yes, I did want to eat. Yeah. It's just amazing what you were able to build once you got the 5 kids out of the house.
Amen. I agree with that 100%. And got them all out of college too. That was a big blessing. But I don't know. It's an interesting business environment here, and I just know transportation, and it just worked out real good.
Well, and a business acumen that is part of who you are naturally. But Scott Logistics, for those who don't know, because it's not retail, so people may not know what it is. It's basically transportation brokerage. You would match loads of freight with empty trucks all over the country. Right. And over 25 years, you built it into what was the gross revenue the final year or two?
$175 million, roughly.
And branches throughout the country, and employing hundreds of people in Rome. So a lot of people owe their livelihood to you and Diane and Scott Logistics and putting food on their table here.
Yeah. And we had a lot of good people there. And it was just a good place to work. particularly Diane, she was more interested in people making it a good place to work, pay them good money, and she wanted to make a living in 40 hours a week and go home and live a good life.
And it worked. The business grew.
Yeah.
And you had lots of longtime employees that were happy as could be there. But my question is, I don't want to mention your age, but you are well past retirement age, and you.
Well, that depends.
He's not retired.
Well, that's my point.
Yeah.
Now he's a real estate investor and landlord and property owner, and like I said, gentleman farmer. He had a farm out in Texas Valley with a bunch of cattle and horses, and I asked him many years ago. His father, my grandfather, I only knew him when he was retired, and he had a garden.
Right.
And he always was working in the garden. And I asked Dad one time, Dad, retirement, do you want a garden? And he said, hell no, I don't want a garden. I said, well, what do you want to do? He said, I want to sit on the front porch drinking beer, looking at cattle.
Yeah, but my daddy was smarter than I was. He'd retired at 55.
And how did he do that? Just worked hard.
Yeah, he just made money and retired when he was 55. He had some good kids. That's what it was.
That's right.
Oh, he didn't have kids hanging around as much. Jimmy, I want to circle back around here quickly, just about your background a little bit. You've owned Hardy Realty for 25 years?
27 since 1993.
Okay. Congratulations. Yeah. So how did that come about? What was your background?
Oh, I had a manufacturing background, and I had the folks who owned Hardy at the time just approached me. They knew I was trying to look and see. Manufacturing was tough at that time, so just one thing, led to another. I actually bought the real estate company without a real estate license, so I had to get that real quick. So, but I had great people that were already there at the company that helped guide us through it. So.
Well, and the name brand of the business, I mean, it's been around 100 years almost or something.
1925. Actually, we've got records of Mr. Hardy back in 23 when he actually did some mortgages. I mean, we got his books where he would loan money to people having houses and stuff, and he morphed into real estate. And
that's Hardy, Hardy, Realty.com would be a website address.
Yeah, that's a website.
And how many, what's impressive to me is how many agents do you have?
We have, I think a little over 50 agents, and we've got, 10 full-time employees, actually 12 full-time employees, 10 are focused, on property management, and then we have 3, so it'd be 13. So we have 3 that are focused on the brokerage besides Debbie Hayes, Chris Kerr, and myself, and Michelle Gibson. So
the property management that's the division that you mentioned earlier. Right. Will handle the leases for the Manus Business Center,
right,
which has just been named,
right,
the Manus Business Center. So no longer referred to at Romans as the old Georgia Power Building. It is the Manus Business Center from here on out at the corner of Broad Street and Turner McCall. One of your agents, Elizabeth Powell, was on our podcast recently, was a Best of Rome winner in the Rome News Tribune.
Congratulations to her. She got that. That was sort of special. So
how does that help you from marketing your business when you have a Best of Rome winner and things like that?
Well, I think everybody likes to get recognized. So that was certainly a great recognition for her. And I think the Best of Rome that Rome News has done is put pressure on all of us to try to win it. Sometimes you're not crazy about it, but you need to win it. So,
in what other ways do you market your business?
So we're certainly on the Rome. We do some advertising in the newspaper. A lot of stuff we do online. Mm-hmm. So we're covering that. We've got a very user friendly website. As well as we strategically place marketing in a number of other commercial websites that will help us lease Roger's space.
Right. At the Manus Business Center.
At the Manus Business Center.
Well, I got news for you, Jimmy. At some point soon, from your marketing perspective, you're going in the podcast business, just so you know.
Yeah, that's what I'm a little afraid of.
Yeah. How does the Hardy Realty Studios at the Rome News Tribune sound to you? Sounds good to me. Dad, what makes a good property investment? I'm talking generally here. You bought the Georgia Power Building. What do you take into account? Well,
I've always dabbled in real estate to some extent. way back, bought and sold a lot of farms. But when I buy something in real estate, I look at what am I going to do with it from here on. That's, what will happen to it when I get ready to sell it? How am I going to use it in the meantime? And what will the market be when I get ready to sell it? And that's for residential or anything.
So the Manus Business Center checked all those boxes for you. Mm-hmm. And you had mentioned some of the things of it. The building itself is in great shape, from the roof and parking and all that. Is that something, Dad, would you comment on it?
Well, yeah, I had either between me and Jimmy, we had that thing inspected about every way you could, and by and large, it needs a little maintenance, but nothing major. But we were very pleased with what. I was very surprised at how the reports I got back on it.
Now, this is a conversation, so it's not an interview, but this is a matter of public record. But if you don't want to answer it, just tell me no. But everybody listening is going to want to know what was the purchase price, and it is public record. So can we announce it yet?
Yeah, it's public record. So it's 1.6.
Yeah, $1.6 million.
Did the check clear?
Yeah, last I heard.
It was a wire transfer.
Yeah, I was at the closing. So you got your set of keys?
Yeah, I got keys.
And the fact we're changing the locks, I guess that's not that we don't trust Georgia Power, but we're changing the locks. So.
Yeah, did free power for life come with the deal?
No.
Refresh my memory if you don't mind. Why did the power company leave? Do we know?
Well, that's a question you need to ask them. I know they consolidated a lot of things. I mean, they've still got an office, and they got their engineering office in Rome. They've got a corporate office that's actually in the DLS building, which is catacombs across from this building. That they've got about 3,000 square foot in there. So.
Well, you mentioned it has sat empty for about a year and a half. How tough a challenge is that type of building to sell in a town this size until somebody like my dad comes along and said he's bored? And
well, I think that the challenge in a building that size is just what do you do with that kind of office space? And Roger has got the holding power and the staying power that he can make it happen, and that's the key to it. I mean, it's tough to, as I told Roger as we were going through all this, if you got to borrow money to do a $1.6 million building, you got to have it performing immediately. Whereas he's got the luxury to let's phase into this and get it done right and get tenants in there. He can hold it, and that was probably that was his single most important advantage in buying the building.
Right. He
knew the risk. He knew what it'd take. He's done his homework and done his numbers, and he knows what he's got to put into it. And, it's a great corner of Rome, Georgia.
Oh, it's at the crossroads of business. I mean, it really is, Dad. Are there any upgrades you're having to do or are you having to put much money into the building?
No, we're having, some lighting improved, some LED lighting put in, and, just a little stuff. That's not little, but
yeah, right.
but that's about it. At this point, we're getting landscaping cleaned up and so forth, and just a little cleaned up is all. Yeah. But to talk about the size of it, if you had 44,000 feet in one building, you can lease it to one person mostly or one company. But this one, the big advantage to it is, and it's a disadvantage too, but you just lease it all in small partials. Sure.
And if necessary, a wall can be moved here or there, I guess, to accommodate with somebody. But there's so many flexible options in there already.
Well, yeah. And it's none of the walls are load bearing. It does have columns that you can't move, obviously,
sure.
But so that gives you flexibility. And the other thing is with two elevators, you got an elevator that goes up into one building, an elevator that goes up in the other building. You could have, 2 tenants if they wanted to separate the building, or you could have 10 tenants. You could have, 6 or 8 tenants in one of the buildings and 2 main tenants in the other building. So it does have a lot of flexibility.
Or it could be that that solo practitioner that just needs 150 little square feet, you know, and the phone. Some people may not realize this. It's actually two buildings, and that drive-through kind of goes through them, correct?
Right. It's got a mezzanine or a walkover that connects the two buildings together.
Dad, I want to pick your brain here from a historical perspective, because it's interesting to me. You now own a building on Broad, and I've heard you reminisce over the course of time about Broad Street this and Broad Street that. You know, just having grown up here, and you went to Darlington, you know, you're living in Armurchie, but going to Darlington. What are some of your memories of Broad Street just through the years, even back to your teenage years? And didn't you used to pop in? Didn't your dad have an office on Broad at some point way back when?
Well, he was half owner of a lumber company here, Rome Builders Supply, and they had a retail store down in the Cotton Block, that paint store and that kind of stuff. But they ultimately moved it after a few years and moved it out to where the lumberyard was. But I didn't spend a lot. The teenage hangout in those days was Tilly's Pharmacy, and they had a soda fountain and all that. Now, that's where the girls hung out, so I'd hang out there.
Where was Tilly's?
At the corner of Broad and Second Avenue.
Yeah, he remembers exactly. What's there now?
Well, on the other corner was, I think it was Enlow's.
Yeah, right.
And but Tilly's was the popular place for the teenage girls to hang out. But on this property where this building is, right at the corner there, a real good friend of mine had a service station there for years. Full service shop, tires, gas, and everything. And it was Dan Robinson from Lindale.
On that spot, or right on the spot, right? Yeah. Wow. So Broad Street, just through the years, but like you got a Hardy place on Broad, don't you?
We have a small little auxiliary office that we let our agents use for special events or to, talk about the lofts at downtown or whatever that's available in downtown. So,
and you have listings in the window.
Yeah, we have listings in the window. I do have a couple of light bulbs I got to get straight. I saw that last night. So, we have listings in the window.
That's your space. Do not build Dad.
That's right. That's right. I won't. Yeah. Right.
So I want to get back to Broad Street here a minute, Dad. So, you're at the 800. So where was this office that my grandfather had? The Cotton Block,
109 Broad Street.
You remember that all these years later. So that's the 100 block. You're now down at the 800 block. So you kind of covered the spectrum. How much has the business community in Rome changed over 50 years, 60 years?
Broad Street has changed a whole lot. But there wasn't much business outside of Broad Street when I was a kid. But my mother used to buy all of our clothes at Swartz Department Store down Broad Street. And that's where you went to buy clothes. That's all there was to it. And shoes and that kind of thing. From kids all the way to adults.
And now you've got the Manus Business Center on Broad Street. So what are your big plans for it other than just, I know you're just going to be blunt, lease the space?
Well, what I hadn't told Jimmy is I'm going back to that farm and stay, and he's going to lease that space up.
I don't believe that's true, because I'm going to ask you. You closed on the building last Wednesday or Thursday. How many times you been back in that building?
About 4.
Okay, so you're not going home. I know exactly where you're going to be. So.
But it's really amazing at how much interest we've already had in it. To me, it didn't come through Jimmy. I refer them all to him. But it's been a lot of conversation around Rome about it ever since it was announced.
Well, I know you have your buddies that sometimes you meet for breakfast, and they've been in your business about this, haven't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I get 9 questions every day about what are you going to do with that building?
Well, we've answered it now. We're going to name it the Manus Business Center. And we're going to lease office space, right, Jimmy?
That's right. That's right. We won't turn down a coffee shop or some kind of small retail that works with the business, but mainly office.
Yeah. So just it's flexible for anything that wants to be approached, and it's a great location. Tell me about the location. So obviously you're in real estate in this town. Talk about where it's located.
Well, the interesting thing, you're talking about the building you had on the 100 block. Well, you now own a complete city block. because that 800 Broad Street is a complete city block. You got 4 streets that go around it. So,
well, that is true. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah. So you not only own a piece of Broad Street, you own a full city block. So
hey, I'm getting scared, Jimmy.
Yeah, can we get our money back, Jimmy?
No, it's too late now.
So again, we'll wrap up here and contact him. I'm not going to give out Dad's contact information because we want him to contact you. Yeah. And it's email, cell phone, website. What do you want him to do?
Right. I mean, so in our property management division, Carol Hatch heads up our property management division with Jimmy Kelly, and so they're integral part of this with me to get this leased up. So call any of us, 706-291-4321, and just let us know. Let us know your thoughts, but also any hardy agent can help you. But,
is there a unique challenge with the fact that the building has been empty as long as it has? Or is it just like, because of that, come on in?
That's an interesting thing because, yes, it has been vacant for a year, but it has never been offered to the general public as being able to occupy it because it's always been Georgia Power. So everybody said, well, Georgia Power, it's been vacant since Georgia Power consolidated some other offices. But now for the first time in Rome, you can sit at the corner of the highest traffic count in Rome, Georgia. So it's an offering that has truly never been out there before. And
not only the great location, but it's going to have new lighting and it's all the technology infrastructure and all that. This is state of the art type, ready to go. Yep. Come in and find your home.
Right.
And we're going to do business.
Exactly. At the Manus Business Center.
You damn right.
Don't shake your head, Roger. You've already named it, so that's it.
It's the Manus Business Center. You're in, Dad, all the way now.
All right, let's go.
Okay. Well, Dad, Roger Manus Sr., thanks for joining us. You're a busy man, even though you should be retired, but thank you for all that you do for my siblings and I and for the city of Rome. And Jimmy, thanks for coming by. And let's get this office space leased, please. I'm saying
no
that
pressure. No pressure.
I'm saying that as the moderator of Rome Business Radio, who wants to make business grow in Rome, Georgia, but I'm also saying it as the son of the owner.
That's right. Absolutely.
So again, everybody, thank you for joining me. You've been listening to Rome Business Radio. I'm Roger Manus Jr., reporting on the Manus Business Center from the Rome News Tribune studios. Thank y'all.